Body Double wasn't just an erotic thriller. It was Brian De Palma's box office catastrophe, released the same day as The Terminator and earning only $8.8 million on a $10 million budget, a film where Deborah Shelton's entire voice was dubbed by another actress because De Palma found her unsuitable. Melanie Griffith's Golden Globe-nominated comeback performance after years in obscurity, and the movie that got De Palma's three-picture Columbia deal canceled after critics savaged it as misogynistic trash while Roger Ebert praised it as a masterpiece. Behind the voyeuristic telescope and power drill murder lay a production where adult film star Annette Haven was rejected by Columbia executives who then hypocritically hired her as technical advisor, where Linda Hamilton chose The Terminator over this and made the right career move, where composer Pino Donaggio slavishly imitated Bernard Herrmann's Hitchcock scores, and where the iconic Chemosphere house John Lautner's spaceship on a pole architectural marvel became more famous than the film itself. What audiences barely saw in 1984 became a cult phenomenon, De Palma's most unhinged Hitchcock homage, earning respect decades later for doing exactly what critics hated, making sexual obsession, voyeurism, and artifice into dark comedy. Today, we're peeping through the telescope at 13 weird facts about Body Double, and stick around for a bonus fact about the continuous take music video that still stuns filmmakers. Number 13, Terminator killed box office. Body Double opened October 26, 1984, the exact same day as The Terminator. This catastrophic scheduling decision doomed De Palma's erotic thriller before audiences could even consider it. The Terminator became an instant cultural phenomenon, earning $78.3 million domestically and launching Arnold Schwarzenegger to superstardom and James Cameron to directorial prominence. Body Double earned only $8.8 million against its $10 million budget, making it a commercial bomb that effectively ended De Palma's hot streak. The timing couldn't have been worse. De Palma had just directed Scarface, 1983, which despite mixed reviews became a cultural juggernaut. Columbia Pictures expected Body Double to capitalize on that success, positioning it as De Palma's return to the Hitchcockian thrillers that made his reputation. But audiences chose Cameron's relentless action over De Palma's perverse psychological games. The box office failure had immediate consequences. Columbia canceled De Palma's three-picture deal, forcing him to scramble for financing on future projects. The studio's faith in the director evaporated overnight, demonstrating how quickly Hollywood turns on filmmakers when box office returns disappoint. De Palma wouldn't direct another thriller for 6 years, pivoting to war films and crime dramas to rebuild his commercial credibility. Number 12. Shelton's voice completely dubbed. Deborah Shelton's entire performance as Gloria Revelle was dubbed by actress Helen Shaver because Brian De Palma found Shelton's voice unsuitable for the role. Shelton, a former Miss USA 1970 turned actress, had the looks De Palma wanted: statuesque, elegant, mysterious, but her vocal delivery didn't match his vision of the character's sophistication and vulnerability. The dubbing was comprehensive. Every single line Shelton delivered on set was replaced in post-production by Shaver's voice. This created bizarre disconnect for viewers who recognized Shelton from her Dallas television role but heard someone else speaking. The dubbing represents old Hollywood practice that had fallen out of favor by the 1980s studios routinely dubbed actors in classical era, but by 1984 it seemed anachronistic and disrespectful. Shelton's career never recovered from the humiliation. Being dubbed sent a message to the industry that she lacked essential acting skills, limiting future opportunities. Shaver, meanwhile, received no screen credit for essentially playing half of Gloria Revelle's character. The dubbing demonstrated De Palma's perfectionist control. He would rather spend money replacing an entire performance than compromise his artistic vision. For Shelton, it meant her biggest film role became professional embarrassment rather than career breakthrough. Number 11. Griffith's career resurrection. Melanie Griffith's performance as Holly Body, the punk porn star with attitude, earned her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actress and resurrected a career that had stalled after years of personal struggles. Griffith had been working steadily in small roles since the mid-1970s, but battled alcohol and drug addiction that derailed her promising start. Body Double represented Griffith's comeback after getting sober. Her Holly Body is electric, tough, vulnerable, street smart, and surprisingly sympathetic. She steals every scene, particularly her first appearance where she cons Jake into believing she's a sophisticated actress before revealing her porn industry profession. The Golden Globe nomination validated Griffith's talent and proved she could deliver complex performances when given material worthy of her abilities. The recognition led directly to major roles in Something Wild, 1986, which earned her another Golden Globe nomination, and Working Girl, 1988, which finally broke her into a list stardom with an Oscar nomination. De Palma's decision to cast Griffith rather than an actual porn star, his original intention, proved inspired Griffith brought emotional depth and humor that an industry professional might have lacked. Her Holly body became the film's heart, the only genuinely likable character in a story populated by creeps, murderers, and voyeurs. Number 10. Haven rejected, then hired. Brian De Palma originally wanted to cast adult film star Annette Haven as Holly Body, believing authentic porn industry experience would bring credibility to the role. Columbia Pictures executives rejected Haven's casting, uncomfortable with hiring a porn performer for a mainstream Hollywood production despite the character being a porn actress. The hypocrisy was stunning. The studio wanted the film to depict the porn industry, but refused to employ anyone from that industry. De Palma responded with typical perversity. He hired Haven anyway, not as an actress, but as technical advisor on porn industry procedures and culture. Haven consulted on set design, dialogue, authenticity, and performer behavior, essentially playing the role behind the scenes that she'd been denied playing on camera. This allowed De Palma to incorporate genuine porn industry details while satisfying Columbia's squeamishness. Haven's consulting ensured that the film's depiction of adult entertainment felt authentic rather than Hollywood's usual sanitized fantasy. The irony deepened when critics attacked Body Double for exploiting the porn industry. The very authenticity Haven provided became ammunition against the film. Number 9. Hamilton's Terminator choice. Linda Hamilton was offered the role of Gloria Revelle, but turned it down to star in The Terminator, a decision that proved career-defining. Hamilton chose James Cameron's low-budget science fiction film over De Palma's erotic thriller, gambling that playing Sarah Connor offered better opportunities than playing a murder victim in a Hitchcock homage. The gamble paid off spectacularly. The Terminator made Hamilton an action star and launched a franchise that would define her career through T2 Judgment Day, 1991 and beyond. Meanwhile, Deborah Shelton's body double performance, dubbed entirely by another actress, damaged rather than advanced her career. Hamilton's choice demonstrated shrewd career calculation. She recognized that Sarah Connor was an active protagonist who drove the narrative, while Gloria Revelle was an object, something to be looked at, desired, and ultimately murdered. Hamilton chose agency over objectification, character over plot device. The decision also reflected changing Hollywood dynamics in the 1980s. Female action heroes were emerging, and Hamilton positioned herself at that movement's forefront rather than remaining trapped in the victim roles that dominated earlier decades. Number 8. Curtis, Fisher, O'Neill considered. Before casting Deborah Shelton, Brian De Palma considered Jamie Lee Curtis, Carrie Fisher, and Tatum O'Neill for Gloria Revelle. Each actress brought different qualities that interested De Palma for various reasons, but all three ultimately passed on or were rejected for the role. Curtis had just established herself as horror cinema's scream queen through Halloween and its sequels, making her an obvious choice for a thriller. But Curtis was actively trying to escape horror typecasting, pursuing comedy roles in Trading Places and A Fish Called Wanda. Fisher, fresh from Star Wars success, was interested but deemed two recognizable audiences would see Princess Leia rather than Gloria Revelle. O'Neill, the youngest of the contenders, lacked the mature sexuality De Palma required for a character defined by erotic exhibitionism. These rejections and passes forced De Palma to cast Shelton, a relative unknown whose lack of distinctive persona made her blank canvas for his vision. The irony is that all three actresses who declined went on to substantial careers, while Shelton's participation damaged hers. Sometimes the roles you don't take matter more than those you do. Number 7. Initial X rating. Body Double received an X rating from the Motion Picture Association for its explicit sexual content and graphic violence, forcing Brian De Palma to re-edit the film to secure an R rating necessary for wide theatrical release. The X rating threatened the film's commercial viability. Most theater chains refused to book X-rated films, and newspapers wouldn't accept advertising for them. The Motion Picture Association objected primarily to two sequences: the power drill murder of Gloria Revelle and the explicit simulated sex in the porn film sequences. De Palma trimmed frames from both, reducing graphic detail without fundamentally altering the scene. The power drill penetration became slightly less lingering, the pornographic sequences slightly less explicit. These minimal cuts satisfied the Motion Picture Association's arbitrary standards while preserving De Palma's artistic vision. The X rating controversy highlighted the Motion Picture Association's inconsistent enforcement. Violent horror films routinely received R ratings for far more graphic content, suggesting that Body Double's combination of sexuality and violence particularly offended censors. De Palma later said the X-rating battle was exhausting but necessary, that commercial realities required R rating even when artistic integrity suggested maintaining the original cut. Number 6. Donaggio's Herman Homage. Composer Pino Donaggio created a lush orchestral score for Body Double that slavishly imitated Bernard Herrmann's iconic work for Alfred Hitchcock's films, particularly Vertigo and Psycho. Donaggio had been De Palma's regular composer since Carrie, 1976, establishing himself as the director's musical equivalent to Hitchcock's Herrmann partnership. Donaggio's Body Double score features sweeping romantic strings, slashing violins during suspense sequences, and brooding melodies that directly reference Herrmann's techniques. The shopping mall tailing sequence, where Jake follows Gloria, received grand orchestral accompaniment reminiscent of Herrmann's museum sequence music from Dressed to Kill, 1980. Critics noted the score's beautifully lush melodies, slashing strings, and endlessly suspenseful build-ups that paid memorable tribute to Herrmann's classic scores. The musical homage was so obvious it became meta-commentary. De Palma and Donaggio weren't hiding their influences. They were celebrating them, making Body Double simultaneously sincere thriller and playful pastiche. The score's Herrmann worship aligned with De Palma's visual Hitchcock references, creating comprehensive homage that some critics found clever and others deemed derivative theft. Number 5. Ebert's 3.5-star defense. Roger Ebert gave Body Double 3.5 out of 4 stars and defended it passionately against critics who attacked the film as misogynistic garbage. While feminist critics and many mainstream reviewers savaged De Palma for exploiting women and glorifying voyeurism, Ebert argued the film was sophisticated satire that deliberately exposed and critiqued male sexual obsession rather than celebrating it. Ebert's review positioned Body Double as meta-commentary on cinema's inherent voyeurism, arguing that De Palma was implicating the audience in Jake's scopophilia. De Palma is saying something about the nature of the thriller, Ebert wrote, recognizing that the film's exaggerated Hitchcock borrowings were intentional commentary rather than lazy plagiarism. This defense put Ebert at odds with critics like Pauline Kael and Vincent Canby, who dismissed the film as sleazy trash. The critical divide made Body Double one of 1984's most controversial releases, not just for its content, but for the debate about whether erotic thrillers could be art or were inherently exploitative. Ebert's positive review gave the film critical legitimacy it wouldn't have otherwise received, allowing Body Double to find cult audience that appreciated its dark humor and formal audacity. Number 4. Lautner's Chemosphere House. The iconic house where Jake Scully stays while house-sitting is John Lautner's Chemosphere, a modernist architectural landmark built in 1960. The octagonal structure perched atop a 30-foot concrete column in the Hollywood Hills off Mulholland Drive was once called the most modern home built in the world by Encyclopedia Britannica. Lautner designed the Chemosphere to solve an impossible building site, a 45-degree slope considered unbuildable. His solution was revolutionary. Support the entire octagonal house on a single concrete pole, creating the appearance of a spaceship hovering over the hillside. The building's name came from ChemSeal Corporation, which provided experimental coatings and resins in exchange for naming rights and promotional use. Body Double transformed the Chemosphere into pop culture icon. The house became more famous than the film itself. It inspired the house built for Charlie's Angels, 2000, appeared in The Simpsons as Troy McClure's mansion, and influenced Tony Stark's home in the Iron Man films. German publisher Benedikt Taschen purchased the house in 1998 and commissioned comprehensive restoration. The Chemosphere's Body Double appearance elevated it from architectural curiosity to cultural landmark, making it one of Los Angeles's most recognizable private homes despite being inaccessible to the public. Number 3. Burham's Split Diopter. Cinematographer Stephen H. Burham employed Brian De Palma's signature split diopter technique throughout Body Double, creating images where both extreme foreground and extreme background remain in sharp focus simultaneously. This violated traditional cinematography rules about depth of field, creating surreal compositions that emphasize the film's themes of voyeurism and artificiality. The split diopter, a special lens filter divided into 2 focal lengths, allowed De Palma and Burham to stage scenes where Jake spies on Gloria through the telescope while other action unfolds in the foreground, both elements in perfect focus. This technique appears most strikingly in the phone booth sequence where Jake eavesdrops on a conversation. The booth's interior and the distant background both remain crystal clear, creating unsettling hyperreality. Burham's cinematography earned praise even from critics who disliked the film, his work demonstrating technical virtuosity that elevated Body Double above typical thriller photography. The visual style was peak 1980s aesthetic, saturated colors, theatrical lighting, compositions that looked like fashion photography. Burham would later earn an Oscar nomination for Hoffa, 1992, but his Body Double work remains his most visually distinctive achievement. Number 2. Greg Henry's stage construction. Actor Greg Henry, who played the villainous Sam Bouchard, recalled Brian De Palma building elaborate interior sets on Columbia's Stage 16 after freezing night shoots in the Hollywood Hills proved impractical for the Chemosphere house sequences. Only the Chemosphere's exterior was actually filmed on location. All interior scenes were studio constructions that replicated Lautner's octagonal design. The set construction was necessary because the actual Chemosphere interior was too small and architecturally distinctive to accommodate camera equipment and crew. De Palma's team built a full-scale replica of the house's interior on the soundstage, allowing controlled lighting and camera placement impossible in the real location. This created interesting paradox. The most famous architectural element of Body Double was largely fake, audiences seeing Hollywood construction rather than Lautner's actual design. Henry also remembered De Palma's meticulous preparation and willingness to do numerous takes until every detail satisfied his perfectionist vision. The production schedule ran long, the budget ballooned, and Columbia grew increasingly nervous about De Palma's obsessive control. But the director refused to compromise, believing that visual perfection justified any expense or delay. Number 1. Columbia's canceled deal. The box office failure of Body Double convinced Columbia Pictures to cancel Brian De Palma's 3-picture deal, ending their relationship after just one film. The studio had signed De Palma expecting him to deliver Scarface-level success in the thriller genre where he'd made his reputation, but instead received a controversial bomb that barely recouped its production budget. Columbia's decision reflected Hollywood's brutal economic. Studios invest in directors based on recent performance, and one failure can destroy years of accumulated goodwill. De Palma had been Hollywood's hot director after Dress to Kill, 1980, Blowout, 1981, and Scarface, 1983. Body Double's commercial disappointment and critical savaging convinced Columbia executives that De Palma's Hitchcock homages had run their commercial course, that audiences no longer wanted his particular brand of stylized psychosexual thriller. The cancellation forced De Palma to pivot away from thrillers entirely. His next film was The Untouchables, 1987, a period crime drama that re-established his commercial viability. He wouldn't return to erotic thrillers for years, and when he did with Femme Fatale, 2002, the genre had evolved past his 1980s aesthetic. Columbia's canceled deal marked the end of De Palma's golden period, the moment when critical backlash and box office reality converged to reshape his career trajectory permanently. Bonus fact: Relax's continuous take. The Frankie Goes to Hollywood Relax music video sequence was filmed in one continuous take with no cuts, every action perfectly choreographed to the song. Brian De Palma staged the entire 4-minute sequence, Jake entering the porn set, encountering Holly Body, the band performing, the crew working as a single unbroken shot that required precise timing and coordination from dozens of performers. The continuous take showcased De Palma's technical virtuosity and his understanding of how long unbroken shots create hypnotic spell that pulls audiences deeper into the scene. The choreography required multiple rehearsals to synchronize every movement with the music's rhythm crew members, walking past at specific beats, Holly's gestures landing on particular notes, camera moves time to musical transitions. Any mistake meant reshooting the entire sequence from the beginning. The Relax sequence became one of Body Double's most celebrated elements, frequently cited by filmmakers as masterclass in cinematic choreography. Modern directors like Paul Thomas Anderson and Alfonso Cuarón credit De Palma's Body Double long takes as inspiration for their own virtuoso camera work. The sequence also captured 1980s excess perfectly, a punk porn star performing on an elaborate set while a mainstream pop band plays their sexually explicit hit, everything filmed with maximum stylistic flair. It's De Palma at his most unhinged and brilliant, demonstrating that even in a commercial failure he could deliver moments of pure cinematic joy. Body Double endures not as the box office hit Columbia wanted, but as Brian De Palma's most audacious Hitchcock homage, a film that failed commercially because it was too perverse, too knowing, too willing to implicate audiences in its voyeuristic games, yet found cult status precisely because those qualities made it more honest than safer thrillers. The darkness behind its creation opening against the Terminator, Shelton's voice entirely dubbed, the X-rating battle, Haven rejected, then hired as consultant, Columbia canceling De Palma's deal makes its cult resurrection more satisfying. A film savaged as misogynistic trash revealed itself decades later as sophisticated satire about male obsession and cinematic voyeurism, De Palma's joke finally landing for audiences sophisticated enough to appreciate it. Roger Ebert understood immediately. Feminist critics eventually reconsidered. And the chemosphere became Los Angeles landmark because De Palma turned architectural curiosity into pop culture icon. Melanie Griffith resurrected her career, Linda Hamilton chose wisely, and Pino Donaggio proved that slavish imitation of Bernard Herrmann could still create gorgeous music. Like and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes revelations that change how you see your favorite films forever. As Body Double proved, sometimes the biggest disasters become the greatest cult films, and sometimes the film critics hate most passionately is the one future generations celebrate for daring to make audiences complicit in the very voyeurism they claim to find offensive.